wait, to bring it back, your position is essentially, broadly speaking, women are not really interested in dating up? Is that, like, can you restate your position?
It was more that I think that's just not true. Like, I don't think women...
What's not true?
I don't think they date up. Because
in general?
I think newer generations.
Can I add
Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. The average age, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, for marriage is approximately 30.5 years old for women in general. Why do you think that is?
Wait, prioritize Discord.
I'm guessing you're going to say because they tried to date up and it didn't work out, right? That's your point?
Well, whether it is or it isn't, I'd like to hear why you think it is that women are getting married at 30 years old when clearly their fertility at that point is going to be drastically reduced in comparison to if they had gotten married when they were in their 20s. Why do you think they're waiting until they're in their 30s?
Well, trends are now showing that's because they're now trying to focus on careers.
Right. So they're trying to focus on resources, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they feel like it takes X amount of time for them to have some kind of resources and safety net and things like this that they can fall back on, and then they'll focus on getting married. Now, do you think that generally speaking, women are marrying men who make more money than them or less money than them?
Right now, probably more.
Probably more. So if you were to put all of this together, what would you say? What would be your synopsis for why this phenomenon is happening now and it's never happened before in history?
You're saying this has never happened before in history? That women dating up?
No. It's never happened before in history where women are waiting until they're in their 30s on average to get married.
Well, it's because they're getting more rights now and they're able to
Well, they've
work.
had rights. They've had rights, for 70 years. And even then, the trend still showed women were getting married when they were younger. Men, on average, get married when they're younger, too. So the question becomes really here, why is it that women are waiting till they're in their 30s to get married? Well, do you want to know what the responses from these surveys are for why they say that they're waiting until they're in their 30s to get married? What do you think that they are, if you had to guess?
Because they're waiting for the right person.
Well, they also say they're waiting to find somebody who's equally yoked with them and has financial stability. And when they get married, they're getting married to men generally who have more resources than they have. So that's not always the case, right? But they tend to settle when they're in their 30s. And in their 20s, they're looking for these, I don't know what you would call them, the Omega Chad or whatever the fuck you want to call it. They seem to be looking for that. And this is just what the data shows over and over again. So I would actually like to hear why you think what the alternative to this is in your mind. What is the alternative explanation?
To dating up? What's the alternative?
No, to why women are waiting until so late in life.
Yeah, it's because, like we were talking about, there's more possibilities for women. Like, we can go look at like Asian fertility rates and things like that. The birth rates going down as they are able to work more and more because they want to have a full career.
Right. So there's more options for them until they get into their 30s, and then the options begin to narrow. And so what do? What do they do when those options begin to narrow in their 30s?
If they settle, don't you think that's dating below them? If they're
settling can be, yeah, but even then, they tend to at least settle with somebody who makes on par the amount of money they make or more than they make. So again, you say that it's because the options, right? They have so many more options when they're younger. We totally agree. They have tons more options when they're younger. They're looking through all of those options, but when the options begin to narrow, that seems to be when they settle, right?
If I could jump in here too, why do you think women don't date up? You even just said that women settle for someone who makes equivalent or below.
My point about the settling was, in his mentality, not dating up is settling, right? So a lot of times if they can't date up...
What about your mentality?
If I'm dating someone who makes less than me?
If you're dating a broke guy, would you consider that settling?
No. Not necessarily at all.
Okay, so do you think women in general, though, would...
Wait, tilt your mic down.
Do you think women in
There you go.
Do you think women in general if they dated men who could not financially provide for them, would consider that settling, as opposed to the ideal of dating someone who financially could take care of them, which would be women dating upwards.
And that's why I think it's more of a generational debate. I think younger generations start thinking, no, it's not settling, but if we get into...
So you don't think modern women want to date men who can financially
the average
take care
age of marriage is increasing. It's not decreasing.
Nick, boost the
so
audio.
It's like, I don't understand.
Did you
I'm
lower
trying
the
to
audio?
figure out where it is that you're coming from here. Because I think I get the worldview. I think I understand. We start with the monolith. You dismiss the monolith. That's fair, right? We're talking in generalities here. But you yourself, aren't you on essentially the same path, right? You're going to wait until you're educated and you have, something to fall back on, possibly a good nest egg. You're out not in any rush. Is it inconceivable to you that you yourself will end up being one of these women who probably gets married later in life at 29, 30, 31?
No, I completely see myself getting married way later than...
Right, so you're following the exact same
Lower it
trend
a little bit.
that most of them are. You're exploring the options. Now, if Mr. Right comes in before then, and he's a football player with millions of dollars and wants to marry you, that might change drastically your outlook,
A little
right?
more.
No, because it's not necessarily on him, it's on me. Am I prepared for that?
That's what I'm asking you. If Mr. Right came in tomorrow,
millions of dollars? No,
he was
'cause-
Rico Suave and he had millions of dollars swept you off your feet, wouldn't you drastically reevaluate your situation?
Not at all. Why would I depend on
No?
someone with millions of dollars? What if he leaves me? Like, there's
Well, now what happens if he leaves you and he has millions of dollars and you're married to him? What happens?
Oh, there's definitely a prenup. Most people are somewhat smart about that, I would say.
A lot of these millionaires, surprisingly, don't get prenups. They don't get them. The women convince them not to get them, and they don't get them. So if a guy wasn't going to get a prenup with you, had millions of dollars, he's Rico Suave, he sweeps you off your feet right this second, what the hell would you ever have to work again for or rely on anything for? Wouldn't you go for it, or would you still wait until your education was done?
I would 100% wait. Like, I've dedicated so many years to my education. That would be such like a loss.
Do you value different resources? Is that why you said no to if you dated a broke guy that wouldn't be dating down?
Yeah, I mean, value them as a human more than their resources. Like, if they're just a good person.
Sure, but in do you plan on having kids?
Yeah.
So in your grand scheme of your life, do you, I guess, put finances at the bottom, even though finances do go into a lot of having kids, getting a house, having a comfy lifestyle?
Well, I've always planned on working, so like it's not really a concern to me if they're the stay-at-home dad. That's never
Okay.
That's not a concern for me.
That's why I asked. Oh,
7 septillion 777 sextillion 777 quintillion 777 quadrillion 777 trillion 777 billion 777 million
See, show Andrew.
777,777 donated $100.
Oh, wow, that's
My
a lot.
sprinkler goes like this.
Oh, that was actually really good.
Comes back like this.
Good. Here, wait. Let me. Thank you, sprinkler guy. Okay. Let me have a little back and forth with you here for a little bit. So, you mentioned one that you've been really focused on, your education. Do you think that? Do you think that men will find you more attractive because of your educational achievement?
Maybe. Depends what
Maybe.
man.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I was just going to make the point that generally speaking, I would say men are not, like, your career success or your ambition or your educational achievement, it's not going to make you more attractive.
I think
to
smart men it might.
No, not really. I suppose it depends on your definition of smart, but I don't think men, that's really a big part of the calculus when it comes to what men find attractive in a partner.
I have a question. So in that case, what would you say men do find attractive when looking for a partner when it comes to a woman's status as far as her
They
finances
don't.
and
They don't
career
care
at
anything
all?
about status.
Yeah.
Like
Status
even
is
if,
irrelevant.
like no work, still lives with her parents in her 20s.
That's preferable.
Yeah, that's preferable.
Those are, Yes, if she lives with her parents, it's probably more likely that she's not
Well adjusted.
going out on the weekends doing hoe shit on the weekends.
I mean, in general, are men more willing to take care of somebody else other than women? I don't think that women would generally, I would say that you're more like an exception, right? Women are more like inclined to say, no, I don't want to take care of this person. I want to like take care of myself. But men in general are more willing to say, you know what, you don't have a job, let me take care of you.
They want to
I
provide.
think
Yeah,
men are way
100%.
Yeah,
less
and
judgmental about that than a woman.
when
would be.
men start to make a lot of money, they think, oh great, I can provide for my wife, I can provide for my family, I can provide for my kids. What I've seen a lot with women is when they start making a lot of money, they think, I don't need a man.
Yeah.
It's two very different perspectives.
I 100%
And-
agree.
Well, and
with
let
that.
me follow up with this too.
Wait, Nick, can
as
you
of-
boost it a little bit?
As of right now, have you yourself financially supported any men?
Like, no, I'm 25 years old.
Well, I mean, but you've dated men.
I mean,
in that 25
yes,
years.
he had to borrow money a lot. Yes.
You had to borrow money a
No,
lot?
he did.
To what?
He did. To
Yeah.
do what? To
do
fly
what?
you out?
No, just to live.
To live?
To live
To
life.
live?
And you're okay
Wait,
with that?
so hold on.
So, I think
Here, I've got a question for you. So, okay. There's a female attorney who's 30.
Okay.
Actually, let's do 35. 35-year-old female attorney, 35-year-old male attorney.
Okay.
Which one do you think is more willing to date an attractive 25-year-old who works at a Starbucks?
Oh gosh.
The man or the woman?
You know the answer, Kirby.
I know the
You
answer. Yes, a man. Yeah, I do think.
Why? Why?
I don't want to say why. I feel like
Well, hey, why? Why?
Wouldn't that
I think
be-
I'm generalizing by saying these statements. I think I'm
These
completely
are general
generalizing.
statements. He's just asking more likely. That is a general statement.
Well,
So
yes.
who's more likely? You say it's more likely it's going to be the man. Why?
I think men more often think with their penises. I'm gonna be
How I don't see how that's thinking with
to
A penis.
want to be with a young pretty woman.
No, it's
I wouldn't
it's
want
not
to be
a
with a
right
young
about
pretty
being
woman.
pretty.
We're having your position is that women actually don't date up.
Nickelodeon donated $100. What'd be the difference in your life between dating and not dating someone over the next 5 years? If it works, you're happy, if not, still lonely. I did the same thing, BC health issues, and regret it.
Wow, Nickelodeon. What'd be the difference in your life between dating and not dating someone over the next 5 years? Is this for the whole panel or just for her?
If it works,
I don't really get the question.
I don't either.
Possibly
I-
like her
I
not
think he's
dating
saying
now
if
versus her dating after she gets her degree and
Yeah, Nickelodeon's saying
why
that
wait?
she regrets waiting. She regrets waiting
Waiting.
Oh, okay.
over this 5-year course. That's all.
I mean, I had a boyfriend for some of it.
Oh no, it's not specifically. So Nickelodeon's saying, I've been in this situation where I waited, and I wish I hadn't waited over the 5 years. And so she's asking you specifically, do you think that it's better to wait or not wait? And what do you think the repercussions in your life will be as an entailment of that? That's what the question is.
Didn't they also talk about their own mental health if you don't date and you're in like a mentally?
They said health.
No, they
in
said that
general.
they were, yeah,
Yeah.
but there's health issues now. So, I mean, I would say that there's nothing wrong with you waiting, right? You have your own priority set right now. That opinion might change later on, and then there's always going to be.
Nick,
there's-
can you pull up the chart? Continue. Go ahead.
There's always going to be like repercussions for taking those actions. Although you're not interested in dating right now and you're focusing on in your career where there's nothing wrong with it, you'll be able to have, you'll be able to financially support yourself and somebody else if you so choose to, but the range of men that might be available to you is going
It's going to be
to
significantly
it's gonna be
smaller with every year that goes
Wait,
by.
Nick, can you
essentially.
pull up the chart?
But I mean, if
Nick,
you feel
Nick.
like the reward afterwards, which would be like what you guys might consider a high valued man who makes a good living, is good to you and treats you well, if that's a good enough reward and it's like worth the wait, then there's nothing bad with it. You just have to keep in mind that there's going to be repercussions to waiting.
I don't think there's repercussions. People get divorced all the time. Like the divorce rate's like 50%. It's like,
But you can choose to not get divorced and stay in a relationship and fight for it.
well, no, I'm saying at me. I'm not
Yeah.
saying like I'm getting married and then get divorced. I'm saying like
Right. In general.
What?
The dating pool it's funny, right? It's
Yeah.
Infographics folder.
I think I understand what was the donator Nickelodeon. Because I personally, I'm going on my 4th year of being single. Not really going on dates, talking to guys, because I want to focus on my career and just working on myself as a person. I also was going through health issues and just wanted to put dating completely on the back burner. And now I'm 24 years old, and I don't necessarily regret that, but I am at a point where I'm thinking it wouldn't have been a bad idea to start looking around or maybe dating around when I was a little younger, because I do want to have children and settle down at some point. And already being 24, I've only got like 3-ish more years to find someone if I want to start having children and get married young still. So I understand what they're saying about regretting staying single for so long, but I don't have regrets. I'm happy.
Do you have the chart? Okay, so I don't know if this is what you're kind of referencing. We've brought this chart up before, hypergamy. Whom men would happily partner with, you have on the left, and then on the right, whom women would happily partner up with. So men are pretty content and very willing to partner up with women who are their equivalents, but typically what you have happening is women are chasing after like the top percentage of men.
You want me to? Okay, sorry. To add to this, I find I was just.
Do you agree? You disagree with this chart? You think this is actually no? The one on the left is actually would be representative of both men and women.
This graphic is crazy.
Let me.
So men choosing women,
So hold on.
women
Let's
choosing
let's
men.
use an example from your dear friend over here, who you live with. She's currently on a dating app, and she says she gets 30 likes a day, but she only likes one of them
Sometimes.
per day. So what percentage is that? 3%?
I can also.
She only finds 3% of the men who like her. So she's not like sending likes out. She's picking. This is on Hinge. She's picking from the men who've already shown a demonstrated interest in her. So if she was so inclined, all of those guys she could probably like fuck that night if she wanted to.
And I can even say from personal experience, like being on Tinder prior to my relationship, I had about 3,000 likes or so in that range.
Whoa.
Well, it's Vegas, so it's a little different. You got me beat, girl. But like even then, like I can honestly and openly say, like I definitely was very choosy. Like I didn't go after a guy who, like I would read bios. I wasn't like going based off of looks, but I would definitely like see, like, okay, is this guy even really worth my time, especially where I was at, because I was a student, I was getting my education, I was taking care of my parents, working, doing the whole shebang at a younger age, and I was like, okay, I'm looking for somebody within my age range, even older. Is this worth my time? Like, is this person worth my time? And I, was, again, doing that 3% thing, where I may be picking, like, out of 100 that day.
I'm so glad I'm not dating donated $100. IDGAF about my wife's education, none, or career. She's a hyper smart mother, crazy about our kids, my belly and my baby gravy. In turn, I'm motivated to make her happy through my labor/protection.
Yo, I'm so
Yeah,
glad.
and this doesn't surprise me at all, right? So the super chatter here is saying he doesn't give a shit about any of that, and why would he? She's providing the best possible function for him that he could imagine, which is that when he comes home, his kids are clean, they're fed, they're well taken care of. That's what he cares about. I don't blame him. Like, that's, what else could she ever want? You know what I mean? That's what a great life. And that's what that chatter there is saying. So
Sorry, I
ahead.
didn't want to cut him
Go
off.
ahead, go ahead.
Do you think the disconnect is that you seem like the provider type? Like you seem like you want to be the provider in in your future relationship?
What do you mean the disconnect?
Like, I guess or maybe not disconnect, but like the back and forth, it seems like we're talking about generalization, like you and Andrew, but you seem like you want to provide for your partner. And the general opinion is like, oh, a woman is looking for a provider when she gets pregnant, 9 months, someone needs to financially provide for her. So if you go with, or if you date down or date a broke guy, how is he going to provide for you for that for when you're pregnant if you do want kids?
Like, do you see yourself as a provider in a relationship?
Yeah, of course. But
Is that your preference? Do you want to be the provider in a
like the
relationship?
breadwinner,
Yeah.
like, because you said the stay-at-home dad thing, which is completely valid, but I guess how would, in your mind, I'm just curious of how you think it would work in the future when you are pregnant at home and you, like, would you save up all that money and only you, or would he go to work for those 9 months?
well, there's maternity leave where you still get paid.
So in general, you're still okay with being the provider?
Oh, I'm just a little confused about the 9 month comment because you're working.
Well,
and
I know. Like 9 month or like when you want to stay home for your kids. I mean, in the field that you want to go to, like, are you guaranteed maternity leave for all that time? You know what I mean?
I'm not 100% on this, but I'm pretty sure that there is regulations in most of the employment field with maternity leave.
Aside from the
That
regulations.
completely and totally depends, and sometimes it's not paid maternity leave. So maybe
Gotcha.
they'll give you the time off, but that doesn't mean that you're getting a paycheck while you have the time off.
Yeah.
So no, it completely depends on what your employer and you have agreed to beforehand. So diving into this, it would be, instead of kind of pivoting over to what about maternity leave, though, you may not qualify for paid maternity leave. So
If you make a lot of money.
kind of diving back into her question, I'd like to know what the answer to it is.
Well, I would hope that I am somewhat responsible in a period of my life where I have enough saved then.
But why is it all on you? Because again, I understand your point of like, if you want to be the breadwinner, that's fine. You don't have to fall into the generalization. But I guess me personally, I'm more of like it's probably not the right word, but equalist of like, hey, we're both going to work equally to do this or save up or whatever. So I guess in your, like, don't mind if he's a stay-at-home dad, how would that work? I'm just curious.
Well, I was saying I wouldn't mind if they worked either. Like I don't know who my potential partner in the future is going to be, so I can't dictate like what I would necessarily. I'm not choosing for. I'm only looking for stay-at-home dads, or I'm only looking for someone who makes this amount of money. But like in that reality, I don't think it's. I think it's becoming more and more common, and for a stay-at-home dad, like in the 9 months, like. He can help around the house. He can help more with the baby. Like I can do remote work. Like
Hold on, wait. Okay, I got a question here. Okay, so going around the table on this, who should pay on the first date? Starting with you.
I don't really care. I feel like I usually owe them if they. I mean, I've only been on one date. Who am I kidding? So like.
Did he pay? Did he pay on that date?
Yeah, but then I paid for other things because I don't like owing people money. And if I'm not pursuing a relationship, I feel like weird about having other people pay for me.
Okay.
What were the other things you paid for?
Like I cooked.
You paid for food that you cooked for him? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, ingredients.
So, okay, the reason I asked the question is because you said stay-at-home dads are what? Becoming like, you'd be cool with that?
Or she said they're becoming like more common, I think.
Yeah.
Normalized.
More normalized.
Trendy.
Yeah.
So as a guy, let's say I'm like, I hop on a dating app right now and I go on the dating app with the same expectation that a lot of women have, that the women's expectations, generally speaking, not all the time, is the guy should pay for the first date.
Okay.
Now, in what world can I ever hop on a dating app where my expectation is she's going to pay for the first date? The best I can maybe get is to split. There's never a world where I can ever go on a date with a girl and anticipate or expect or feel entitled to her paying for the first date.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of people have.
Like, would that be a losing strategy for me to expect to go on a first date and expect the girl to pay? She pays for me and herself.
I think you should go in with the mindset, at least I'm paying 50-50.
Is that how you think women go in to dates, generally speaking?
I'm expecting I could
like
pay the
it's
full
probably
bill.
split, but it's probably like split between like 50-50 or the guy's going to pay, but it's almost never I'm going to pay for the date.
I don't know what to expect. What if their card gets declined?
This is so ridiculous. Look, let's dive into this. Let's make this super easy, because essentially you're just pretending you have no standards and nobody believes you. Literally nobody believes that this is true at all.
I didn't
So let
say
me
I
ask
didn't
you
have
this.
standards. Let's calm down
Would you-
here.
Well, then you have to stop
crazy.
pretending that you don't, because you seem to always want to point towards an exception or an outlier, right? So Brian asks simply, he's saying, do you think it's a good strategy to go on a dating app with the expectation that the woman's going to pay for you, or that it's even going to be a 50-50 split? Does that even seem like a reasonable strategy for the average guy to go into a dating app considering? Does that even seem reasonable to you, honestly?
I don't think that's reasonable for the woman or the man to expect that.
Yeah, okay, but who do you think? Why would it not be reasonable for the woman to expect that?
To expect that the man's going to just completely pay for a date?
Yeah, since they always do. Like, why would that be unreasonable for a woman to expect that, considering that they always do that?
I just, that's a lot of trust in other humans.
Can I jump in
What do you
here?
mean? What do you mean trust?
Well, 'cause-
It'd just be like, hey, pick me up at 6 and you're paying. That it's not even complex, is it?
But a card
general
can get
convention,
declined. That was my
yeah.
point. Like, things can happen.
But-
there are
Yeah.
other
Okay.
factors.
So you bring your oops, this guy's a bum wallet with you, right? But that aside, for the most part, it seems like how is it possible that you won't concede that it's a viable strategy for a woman to go in to dating with the expectation a man will pay for everything, but it's really not a viable strategy for a man? That doesn't seem ridiculous to you?
That I'm saying that I just don't trust humans in general is my point. Like, I don't think anyone should expect.
Yeah, but it's not about you and your preferences or your trust. It's asking you a question about how the interpersonal dynamics between men and women. And the question remains, is it a more viable strategy for women to have the expectation that men will pay for dates? Or is it more viable that the expectation men should have is that women will pay for dates? Honestly.
In general.
Sure.
Just agree, bro.
I think that they're trying to like make you feel like how can you word it, like, because you were saying that women don't date up, right? Or that your belief is that women don't date up, and that it all sounds like they're trying to tell you no, they do date up, they only date up.
Because they do.
In general they do, and I think that you have your own personal belief, but there's like a generalized concept of like women and men going on dates and men paying for the first date in general.
Just a social convention or social
Yeah.
whatever.
So like if
assumption.
someone's on a dating app and you're like, if I'm a man and I'm hitting on this woman and then we decide to go on a date, technically like 80% of the time, I'm just throwing a random number out there, 80% of the time, the man is going to be expected to pay for the date. So that's more of like a generalized.
But do you think if the woman offers to like, oh, I can take, like, let's go on a date or
Well,
go to a date,
For
do you
me,
think they'll pay then?
if I ask somebody to go on a date, I'm paying.
Yeah.
Grid 1 Motorsports
I have
donated
something
$100.
after this.
I realize it is asking a lot, but can we get the Dollar Tree stripper back somewhere close to reality? We all
Who's
know
that?
she has
Who's
never
that?
actually paid for a date and dates men based on Theo
Oh.
Wallet. Be better.
Dollar Tree stripper.
Thank you, Grid One Motorsports. Appreciate it. Who's the Dollar Tree stripper?
I'm gonna guess me, but
that
I've
you?
only been on one date, so like, what is he gonna?
You're not Dollar Tree. You're higher than that.
Wait, so
Yeah,
okay.
so then he was right though. He's not
Actually, I paid-
not about the Dollar Tree, not about the Dollar Tree thing. But he was right when he said that you've never paid for a date in your life.
No, I have actually with my ex-boyfriend. We went on lots of dates.
What?
and I
Wait,
paid.
no. You said that you've only ever been on one date. That's your words. One date.
Outside of
Count
my
them.
ex.
That's one. Now, you can't say, and also I went on these other dates outside of this one date, because that wouldn't make any sense. So you went on one date, and on the one date, you didn't pay. So Grid 1 said, you've never paid for a date in your life? He's right.
Outside of my
Right.
ex, yes. Correct.
So
Got
you've been
me.
on more than one date then?
I've been only on a random date with a random person once, right?
And you
I
did-
was
and
already
did you
dating
pay
my
for-
boyfriend when we went on
Right.
dates.
And you didn't pay for that date, right?
The one date. No, I didn't.
Right. So then,
I offered.
Ipso facto, the logic here is all of the dates that you consider dates that you've ever been on, you've never paid for any of them.
Yep, 100%.
100% success rate.
Oh, 100%. The one success rate.
I have
Just saying the chatter was right. That's all.
Yeah, of course.
I have
I'm
a
also a dollar
scenario
store
here.
stripper.
I have a scenario here. So, okay, your position is that generally speaking, women really aren't dating up. Is that correct?
It's the general statement.
That's your position. Okay. So let's do a scenario. So you have a high status individual.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of an actual celebrity example I could give. Let's say you have
Elon
jeez,
Musk.
who?
Yeah, you were talking about him today.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like who's a dude that a lot of women like.
Leonardo
Brad Pitt.
DiCaprio.
Johnny Depp.
Oh, Jacob Elordi. Don't people like
Oh, there
him?
you go.
Let's just say like a famous musician, famous actor, whatever. He's in a bar.
Drake.
Okay, we can use Drake.
Yeah.
Fuck it, we'll use Drake.
He's got that snake.
Drake is okay. Drake's in a bar. Drake's in a bar,
Okay.
and there's a bunch of women in the bar, and there's like 21-year-old really attractive nobody women in the bar, and then there's like a 33-year-old average woman who's very successful, and maybe she's got a bit of status herself. Maybe she's also a singer or something, and she's had a couple hits herself. Who do you think that he's going to go after?
To sleep with.
Anything.
Dating, sleeping with any
Dating,
of it.
having a relationship.
Well, I think relationship-wise, it depends because you see his past relationships if you want to pull up actual him.
Okay.
And he's dated
Doesn't
both.
he date like
He dates-
IG model?
And he dates singers.
Yeah, usually IG.
But
models.
men generally only care if a woman is attractive and has good motherly qualities, whereas
Wait,
women.
so sorry. Go ahead. I'll
Whereas
continue.
women typically want to be taken care of by their man, which is why they date up, because they want that security. And they want the financial responsibility that if they do have kids or if they're 9 months pregnant, they're not going to have to worry about that. And they have security both financially and just overall. And that's why women typically date up. And I think you are an outlier, but to say generally women think like you, I think is completely wrong.
Well, I was just saying in the younger generations, it could be different. I don't think.
No, it's worse in the younger
Yeah, I
generations.
feel like-
It's worse.
I feel like it's more trendy to date up,
Well,
especially on everything
you're
else.
not dating intentionally right now, right?
Yeah.
Because you're focusing on your career. What I think is that a lot of modern women are moving that way because they're either gonna date up or not date at all, because
on.
they want to focus on whatever they're doing, get their bag or whatever.
Okay, so I made an error in presenting this scenario. So the scenario is not this. The scenario is actually from the perspective of the perhaps interested individual. So let's say you have I'm trying to think here. Let's say you have a 25-year-old guy, and he has a choice of going after the really hot 21-year-old girl in the bar,
Okay.
who's got no following on Instagram, but she's really attractive, or there's a 33-year-old, I don't know, who's fucking Rihanna. Okay.
Rihanna?
Rihanna, sure. Okay.
He's going for Rihanna. Who
No,
wouldn't?
nope, he's not. He's not.
Crazy. What?
No, there's not going to be a bunch of dudes like wanting to get at Rihanna if there's like more physically attractive women in that environment. However, if you place women in that same environment and there's just like a 21-year-old attractive guy versus a 33-year-old average looking woman who's rich and has a bunch of status, they're not going to all like, oh yeah, I really want to like sleep with her and date her. No, they're going to gravitate towards the younger attractive women
Aren't you also
who have
like?
no status.
But then that's more of the actual idea of like fame and like the fake image of fame and.
Right, dating up, status. And that status can be
So status is dating up,
status
even if they're.
doesn't need to be fame, right? You can have, there's other ways that men can achieve status. Maybe they have status in their work or something like this.
Yeah.
Maybe they just have tons of cash, but not not be what you would consider traditionally famous. So that's all that's being stated. As a follow-up question here too, I'd like to ask you, you do plan on at some point getting married, I'm guessing, or no?
Yep.
Okay. Are you planning then, since you have this career, on having your children be babysat by babysitters, or do you plan on staying home and taking care of your kids?
My family can help.
Yeah, that doesn't. I mean, that's just dumping them with somebody else, right? Are you planning on staying home with them or not?
No.
You're not planning on staying home with your kids?
No, I think working a 9 to 5 and then coming home after.
And do you think that it's optimal for kids that they don't have a stay-at-home mom, or that they do have a stay-at-home mom?
Optimal, I think either could work.
I didn't ask if either could work. I asked which one you think is
Tony
optimal.
donated $100. Esme makes my sprinkler go TS 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 TS
It sounded better before.
TS TS TS.
Yeah, which
have a
thing do you
question
think is more
for her.
optimal for the children?
Optimal for the children? Well, optimal is both parents stay at home.
Who's paying
Okay,
the bills?
That's not.
That's the most
not
optimal.
even-
Though. Like I don't get that question. Like
In a
That's
realistic
not-
scenario.
That's not, so instead of giving a dishonest answer, give an honest answer. One parent is going to have to work. There's no way around that, generally, right? But two parents don't have to work, again, generally. In that situation, do you think that it's optimal if one parent does not have to work to choose to work when they could stay at home with their kids?
Do I think it's optimal that this is such a loaded question, because you're saying if you
Why
had
is
to
it
choose
loaded?
one, if you had to, there's always going to be one.
It's not loaded.
If you do you love your mom or dad more?
It's not who you
Choose.
pick.
That-
It's
now
not
that-
who you
now-
but like
now, hang on. When we dive into this, so I'll answer your question first, okay? Love my dad more.
That's
Does
crazy.
that make you feel better? Now,
that's crazy.
To you, can you actually answer my question?
I don't think it's optimal. No,
You think you don't think which thing is optimal?
I do not think a mom staying at home is optimal.
Really?
So what is optimal?
I think see, that's the thing. I think optimal is depending on
strangers
each
raising your kids.
situation.
You think that strangers raising your children is optimal?
Why are we assuming that both my parents worked growing up? I don't care what you say. If you're like, oh, it makes
Was that
sense now.
optimal?
There's after school programs. There's things, and then you go home. You see your parents a perfect amount of time. You see them all
What
the
makes
time
it a
on
perfect
weekends.
amount of time? What would be your frame of reference to make the determination that was a perfect amount of time? Wouldn't it have been better if your mom had stayed home with you?
Not necessarily. I love to see where my mom is in life. I love to see her success.
No, for you, not for her, for you.
Yeah, for me, it's a great role model. I like looking up to my mom. So I think, yes, it was optimal for me.
So you can't actually say right now, right this second, in front of everybody, that you actually believe that it's not optimal to have a mom stay at home with her children. I just want that reaffirmed.
That's why I said it's a loaded question. I think it's determining.
It's not loaded.
It depends on the household. But the reason I'm saying it's not optimal, if you give me the choice of two, yes or no, I'm saying no.
Okay, well then let's get hyper specific, because otherwise you'll make the bold claim that it's loaded. You have two parents in the household. One makes enough money where the other one doesn't have to work, but they won't be able to do all their vacations and fun time and stuff like this. But the mom can stay home with the kids, should she?
And I'm going to give a direct example. My parents, my dad was well off, where my mom did not have to work, but she chose to. And I...
What?
So, question.
Wait, you're
And that was optimal?
That was optimal, yes.
your dad.
And so if you were to take all of the research, it's because you like research, that's been done on this topic, showing whether or not the outcomes for children who are in a home where they have a present parent, which outcomes are better for children.
But what do you mean present parent? Because she was very present. It's just you had to.
No, who stay at home with the children. I'm sorry, stay at home with the children versus babysitters and outsourcing childcare. The mom stays home. Which outcomes for the children generally are better, with or without the stay-at-home
You're acting
mom?
like they're sleeping in the office. They're.
Which ones are generally better for the children? Which ones?
Having a parent figure around or not having a parent figure around.
No, that's not my question. Out of these two, these two summarizations, one, you have a mom who stays at home, two, you do not. That's it. Those two things. There can't be both, right? Just one or the other. The outcomes for the children in those situations do better under which model?
The mom staying home.
Right, the mom staying home. So, wouldn't that then, if you thought that you wanted the best outcomes for children, lead your logic into the belief that if the mom can stay home, she should?
Not necessarily, because in my, like I said, in my case,
in general.
You say there has been like stats of that when a child or children have their mother figure specifically present, especially in the first years of life. And I get it, like you're saying 9 to 5, come home. Okay, great. But like, I'm talking like around the clock for those first couple of years, or I don't know what the exact statistic was, but they have way less like mental issues, and just in general, they are better off when they grow up to have that. I forget what it's called, but like when a mother gives birth to their child, that bond or whatever, like that touch to touch, that mental bond that keeps going through their first 1 year, 2 years, whatever, and to not have that, or to have that be lesser, could negatively impact them. So I'm saying, I think he's saying statistically, I think it's optimal for the woman to be home, or the mother.
Okay, so hold on. So can you tell us a little bit of details, and then we're going to move on. We lingered way too long. So your dad was well off.
Nickelodeon donated $100. Apparently Dad was only communicating with the nanny, which is why JoJo doesn't know how to communicate with men. You still think Mom was a good role model?
that's hard.
Do you want to respond to it?
I don't know how to talk to people. I agree.
Okay.
It's wholeheartedly.
All right,
I do have a question for her.
Hold on. We have another one coming in. Hold on.
Grid 1 Motorsports donated $100. Men are proven better at child rearing, but they are also better providers, so the best case is the mom stays home and does what the dad says. When it comes to the children, the patriarchy is here for you.
Based.
I just love Grid 1 Motorsports, by the way.
Yeah.
Got to be my favorite chatter to this point.
Oh, he's super based. Super based. Wait, okay, so my question for you is, you said your dad was well off. What are we talking here?
What do you mean?
When you say well off, like, it sounds like your mom didn't have to work.
Mm-hmm.
But she chose to anyway?
Yeah.
Did you have to pay for, or did they have to pay for childcare so that she could go to work?
Yeah, we had babysitters, after school programs.
Even though she didn't have to work?
Mm-hmm.
How much was she making? Do you know?
Oh, she's a lawyer.
She's a lawyer? Your dad, I assume, is...
He's well off. I'll just say that.
Is he a business owner, or...?
Business, corporate stuff.
He earned more than your mom?
Yeah.
Well, hold on. You have an example in your own life of a woman dating up.
But he wasn't up. He wasn't up when they met.
Huh?
He wasn't up when they met. He was like...
She married him, right?
They were high school sweethearts. But he was like a high school dropout, pretty much. So
Okay.
what do you say then? They got married and he was like a high school dropout.
Okay.
So she married down, and
maybe she saw the potential.
That's crazy.
She saw the potential. In any case, the man she ended up with and married to was so well off that he could have an attorney. Oh, stay at home. You don't need to go make 6 figures. But she chose to anyways.
Yeah, she chose to.
Is it a 7-figure a year type of dude?
I feel like I shouldn't release that information.
Wait, I have a question. Are you politically? How do you consider yourself?
Now, what do you think I am?
I don't know. Are you? I'm trying to see if you're
I
like
would
a
say
socialist.
that you're a social progressive, as much of a social progressive as you can get, even if you don't think you are. That's what I would say.
What are you politically?
I'm more to the left, yes.
Are you socialist?
I would say I'm more of a capitalist.
More of a
Yeah,
capitalist.
she's a social progressive. So she's a
Okay.
social leftist. Basically, these are called status quo progressives. So, yeah, I love capitalism and some patriotism's good, this and that, but everything else is through a left-wing frame. So
Okay,
that's
I
a
see.
social progressive, essentially.
Okay. It's interesting. What kind of law did your mom? Does she practice or
Right now, it's like more contract law.
contract law? Is law really like? I don't know. I mean, if your dad's, she could have not worked. Is that correct?
Yes.
But she chose to work.
Yes.
It's never too much money.
I think she's viewing it like, I think her
All right,
standpoint,
okay.
your standpoint's more, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but based on like the points that you're making, I think you're viewing it as the potential breadwinner in a relationship, right?
Well, then
But, like-
wait. Are you? I really want to move on, but
Yeah.
are you arriving at a point here soon?
Yeah. So, so like, what I'm saying is like, okay, you say that you would want to like stay a not an at-home mom, but like you have to keep in mind that even though you are a breadwinner in a relationship, if you decide to date someone who does not make the same amount of money, if not more, and like let's say you have the baby and you're like, oh sweet baby, I want to stay with you at home now, who's gonna be making the money?
So you're saying opinions change?
What?
So yeah, his career path could change too. He could maybe start wanting to make money. Could,
Yeah, but
doesn't
other
mean
things
it
can
will.
happen outside for the question you asked me. What about that? What about the fact that other things could also happen that you didn't detail in your hypothetical? What about those
Well,
things?
it's a
though?
hypothetical, so
They're
that
like-
means there's a lot of
just so you
outside
know, just so you know,
factors.
it's one of
Okay,
those
I think
dishonest
she's just the
exchanges.
outlier.
Yeah.
Getting an answer out of you is like pulling teeth. It's
Sure,
a nightmare.
it
It's a
is.
ghoulish nightmare. To get
I'm an
straight
absolute
answer.
nightmare. I agree with that.
That's why she has been on
Wait,
one
you've been
date.
single? I was gonna say you've been single for 2 years. All right.